All right, Careers in Code, welcome back. Careers in Code, welcome back. It's Wednesday, March 20th, 2019. Did you guys miss me?
Yeah.
Did you miss me? I know. Everyone cried last night. It was really sad, a lot of tears. It really was. Oh my God. I feel wanted, I feel loved. But you are going to work with other instructors in the future. Why are we all talking? Why am I the only one? I should be hearing my voice right now. Jennifer, Kate. Anyways, tonight we are going to do a number of things tonight where we're going to do a little bit of review and a little bit forward progress. A little bit of review, a little bit of forward progress. That's how I work, that's how I roll, that's how you learn. We're going to review SAS. And then we're going to learn a little bit about responsive web design, set up a media query, and then put it in play. We're going to actually do it. And we're going to take that Syracuse.com prototype that we started Monday, that you finished last night, right? You finished? You finished? Yeah. We'll put that, we'll improve it and expand upon it. That's going to be your roadmap for the next 2 weeks. And then we're going to go back to SAS and learn a few more things. And I might do this out of order a little bit, but we're going to really master SAS variables, SAS nesting, and then I'm going to show you SAS partials and SAS mix-ins and all that fun stuff. But we're going to use that Syracuse.com prototype as a learning mechanism. Before we get going, any questions? How's it going? How's your day? It's Wednesday. It's the best day of the week. Hump day. I don't know what this is. This is hump day. Don't ever do that again. Not safe for work. I know you're impressed with my dance moves. This is how you dance on the floor. Jesus.
Is the camera on?
Nope, no camera. This is all mental. For people at home, it's all mental image. Yeah. Anyways, how was last night? What did you guys do? You did a little bit of command line stuff. How was that?
Good.
Okay. Admittedly, I'm a late adapter of command line stuff. I never did any command line stuff until about 3 or 4 years ago when this thing called Git and Github came out. And everyone's talking about version control and how awesome it was. I was like, I don't know, I'll just, with this high voice, I'll just, stay away from that because command line, it's nerdy, geeky, computer sciencey. And now, fast forward to 2019, so many things in web development are all based on the command line. It's now part of your process. It's not an optional thing that you just sprinkle in. It is now a central component to web development. There's some web developers out there that they just do everything via the command line. They make files, they make folders, they navigate all their folders and go into different projects all through the command line. There's some developers that claim that they never touch the mouse while they work. They just do everything with keyboard shortcuts and command line commands. I don't know, Doug, are you one of those?
Command line only?
Yeah, don't touch the mouse or mouse. Makes them, yeah. But when you get into bigger frameworks, an Angular, a Node, a React, or even other frameworks like Ruby, everything's all via the command line. I thought the command line was just circa 1995 MS-DOS kind of thing. I thought those days are behind us. They kind of are, but it's coming back, and it's a very powerful thing. I was just in a Python workshop this a couple weeks ago with Dana, and we're doing intro to Python. I kind of trailed off in my own little world during that workshop, and I was reading stuff about scraping websites with Python using a little package. And this little website about this Python scraper called Scrapy. It's called Scrapy. What a clever name, Scrapy. Anyways, they give you instructions, and boom, boom, boom. You just put this into your file. You run this command to install this package, and you suck down these open source things off the web. And sure enough, within 4 minutes, I was able to scrape a website. Okay, now I'm not a professional scraper. I don't exactly know what was going on, but I still did it in about 4 minutes. And it's ridiculously powerful, all these things you can do via the command line. So you're going to review the command line 1,000 times throughout the 24-week session here. And you are going to become an expert. If it feels painful, let it be painful, but keep tackling it, keep doing it over and over again. And before you know it, somewhere 3 weeks from now, it's going to be like your right hand. It's just you're going to think via the command line, and you'll be like, where Why didn't I use the command line sooner? Okay, what was I afraid of? Okay, that's what goes through my head. Every time I do something in the command line, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad, and then boom, it works. Like this past week, I had to renew a certificate for HTTPS on a website. Doug, have you ever done this, HTTPS?
It's been a while, yeah.
Okay, I had to do it manually, and I downloaded this package called CertBot. It's this little thing that can make HTTPS certificates. You just got to run a few commands in it, and I always dread it. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so hard. No, it takes like 6 minutes. A few commands, boom, 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 gives you something to copy and paste into your control panel of your web host, and bada bing, bada boom, you have an HTTPS website, all via the command line. Now when you work with other web hosts, modern web hosts, you don't have an FTP login anymore. FTP is like they give you a little username and a password, and you can connect your computer to the server, but it stands for File Transfer Protocol. But it's a little program that communicates with the server. That's completely old now. Now you push to a Git repository, you push your code up, and then your web host reads code from that repository and serves it up to the end user. So it's now Git, all this Git stuff is completely standard. What you did was push to GitHub, and GitHub and Git are two different things. Git is the language of committing to pushing to the whole version control. You're not deep into it yet, but eventually you will. But that's Git. It's a little framework on your computer that you install to make all that magic happen. But then you push to a repository, and a free repository is GitHub. You create an account on GitHub, you push to it, and then you can kind of host all your projects on GitHub and distribute links to everyone to look at your site without having a fancy, full-blown, expensive web hosting account. Actually, web hosting is very cheap, so I should take that back. Question, yeah?
How does like Git or GitHub make money?
Good question. Don't know. Okay, I think what they do is they, a lot of these open source things like a WordPress or GitHub or other things I can't think of, what they do, where they make their money is annual conferences, where they bring the nerds and geeks together, and they charge for sponsorships, they get ticket sales, they get people in, and that's where they can kind of make some money.
They also have private repositories.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yep.
Pay monthly fees to have private repositories that others don't have.
So for businesses and agencies.
Microsoft bought them for a ton of money because they accumulated this massive community, so they've done fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to make GitHub in this class 24 weeks, and then we're all going to become rich and famous. And just remember, your instructor gets 5%. Okay, just. No, I'll take 5. I'll take 5. Okay. How much did GitHub sell for? 3 billion? Few, yeah. Okay, I'll take 5. I'll take my voice. It goes up. I don't know. What's 5 of 3 billion? What's 5% of 1 billion? 50 million?
Yeah.
Times 3? 15. I'll take $15 million. Thank you very much. Once again, we're talking about money. I think AJ sassed me last time about money. Yeah. Okay. To get back into what we were doing Monday nights. Did you do anything about Syracuse.com last night besides push it up to GitHub? Did you even touch any code?
No.
Perfect. Okay. So let's open it back up into your text editor. So how do you do that? Just review. Look at this. I take my careers in code, module 2. There's my Syracuse.com folder. And I drag this into VS Code icon down below. That's one way of doing that. It opens everything up, and it even brings your terminal into the right location. That's super important. Another way of opening everything up into VS Code with the folder is just open up VS Code and go to File, Open, and navigate and find that folder for Syracuse.com and click Open. Okay, so just open the project folder, not a single file. The most important thing, the two main benefits of opening folders versus single files is you get to see your entire project folder off to the left in the File Explorer of VS Code, super nice. And then your new benefit is if you open up your terminal to do SAS, to do GitHub, if you do a PWD in your terminal, it's already in the Syracuse.com folder. So you don't have to do a CD, a change directory, into your users / for me, jpassetti / desktop / careers in code. You don't want to do a bunch of CDs to get to Syracuse.com. You want to go straight to Syracuse.com. And once I learned that, I was like, okay, my life is a lot easier. Here's another shortcut. If you didn't drag your folder, if you're working in a terminal and you don't have your folder, like if I go to the old-fashioned raw terminal in on a Mac, and it's in the applications folder terminal, you don't open it up, but if I do a pwd here, okay, by default it's in user / jpassetti. If I wanted a CD somewhere, I can do CD space. Here's a shortcut. Watch this. If I want to get into Syracuse.com, I go find Syracuse.com in a project folder, and I can drag that folder into my terminal after my CD spacebar. And when I let go, it gives me the path, and then I can hit enter. And now if I do a pwd, it's looking in Syracuse.com. So if you do a little CD spacebar and drag the folder and drop it into your terminal, it'll grab the path for you. But VS Code, you don't have to worry. If you just drag the folder into VS Code, you're working on multiple levels. You're in the right direction. Does that make sense? Cool. And you'll do that 1,000 times throughout everything. Let me open up the presentation about SAS for Monday, and we'll pick up kind of where we left off. Oh, where is it? Yes, 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 yes. Boom. Just got to dig a little bit. Sassy SAS. SAS stands for, can anyone remember the acronym for SAS? Syntactically awesome style sheets. Thank you very much, Kelly. You're syntactically awesome as well. What does that really mean? Well, it allows you to write your CSS easier, more fluidly, more efficiently. It becomes syntax. I can't even say the word. What is that even word? I didn't write it on my slide. Yeah, systematically awesome, syntactically awesome, syntactically. Yeah. It allows you to write better code, easier, so you're not super strict with your CSS. You still got to know what CSS is. I've had many students try to jump into SAS before even knowing how to write raw CSS. And like, Jeff, check out what I'm doing. I just learned how to do SAS, and I was like, oh, cool. Can you do? How do you do a media query, a responsive breakpoint, which we'll get to today? And they're like, I don't know. Well, how do you do this and that? And like, I don't know. Well, that's where you want to spend some time doing CSS before you start taking advantage of SAS. But now I'm teaching it to students a little quicker in the curriculum because it's a great thing to learn parallel with what you're doing already in CSS. It can help you do some things easier. So we already installed it. You only have to install it once on your computer. Once it's installed, your computer knows the SAS framework. Okay, so we went through this whole process of first installing Homebrew, which we ran a Ruby command to go download Homebrew from Github usercontent.com, a content delivery network, if you will, and installed it for us. Then we ran a Homebrew command. Hey, Homebrew please run the command called install and install. I don't know what SAS/SAS/SAS was. I got that straight off of SAS's website, but it's referring to a directory of SAS files somewhere up on a cloud server that Homebrew manages. You don't have to worry about that. Quite often I copy things from the documentation page and paste them in. If you're using a really nice framework, they're going to have really nice documentation telling you how to install and run things. And if that didn't work, we're going to run a sudo command for a super user, but everything worked. Thanks Apples thanks for the, I can't think right now, PowerBook, the Mac PowerBook, for making things relatively easy. And then we ran a command called SAS-version. And if it installed correctly, it spit out SAS version 1.17 point something, I can't remember. And that's telling you that, yes, indeed, your computer knows what SAS is and you can run it. And we ran it by doing two commands. First, we changed directory into our CSS folder. And then we ran a SAS command called watch, and we told what file to watch and what file to then compile into. And that's this whole, I think of it as a moth and a butterfly. hey SAS, I want you to watch something. I want you to watch this SAS file called style.scss. We're going to do all our Lucy code, our cool code in SAS in this little file. But if that changes, if we hit save, compile out to a final version called style.css. A lot of people have asked me, do you have to call the file style.sass and style.css? And the answer is no. I can have bananas.sass compile into apples.css, as long as you link to apples.css in your HTML document. But as a common practice of development, just keep your files simple and named correctly so that if you pick up your files from 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 1 year from now, you'll know exactly what these files are. Question? Yep.
So does it create that style?
Yes, it creates it for you. You don't have to create that file for you because every time you keep saving style.sass, it keeps recreating from scratch that final compiled version, all in like 4 milliseconds. So never touch this. Just have it in the right location. And in our HTML, if you think about the link element, we are linking to a style sheet in the CSS folder / the name of the file, style.css. The browsers cannot read Sass from scratch. I wish they could. That's one of my hopes for the future. But instead, they can just read regular old-fashioned CSS. And all of our Sass stuff, the Sass compiler compiles everything into that clean language. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to turn on Sass. And, well, first of all, we're going to change directory. Let me zoom in a little bit. We're going to change directory. Well, if I do a PWD right now, make sure you're in Careers and Code Module 2 Syracuse.com folder. That's the active directory that the terminal is looking in. And now if you do a CD, change directory, and choose your folder CSS, it'll change. Before I hit enter, I'm going to hit backspace for a little bit. Did Christy show you LS? What does LS stand for? List files. I don't know what the S, maybe it's the S of files, but list files. And like that, you can see the CSS folder, the images folder, and an index file. So CD, CSS, change. If you do a LS here, you're going to see some files from Monday, a normalized file, a style.css, a map file. Now every time you run Sass, it creates this extra map file, and you don't have to touch that file. Think of it as an invisible file. Really inside that map file is just a routing mechanism so that Sass knows what the input file is and what the output file is. And it also contains a timestamp of your most recent compilation. But that's for Sass to use and work out everything. So the file that you really use is style.scss. Well, let's turn it on. Let's type out Sass space -- watch space Sass space -- watch. Now you got to ask yourself, watch what? Watch what file? What Sass file? Please watch style.scss : and if it changes, if we do something and we hit save, it's going to turn it into style.css, regular old-fashioned .css. When you hit return, boop, 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 Sass is like, okay, I'm running. Sass is watching for changes. Press Control-C to stop if you have to use your terminal for something else. But now it's literally just waiting for changes in that Sass file. And once we do something and hit save, it's going to run a little automatic command and keep compiling out to a finished copy of CSS. Okay?
I don't know.
That's okay. Did you?
He's in the Syracuse.com folder. CD,
Yeah.
CD, CSS, no such file.
Okay, let's go back down and do a PWD. Where are we? PWD. You're back to users / your username. Let's do a CD space, and then I'm going to go grab your folder. Where's your folder?
It's right there.
No, that's a file. Where's your
Careers and Code. On the desktop.
desktop? Perfect, okay. And Careers and Code, Module 2, beautiful, Syracuse.com. I'm going to take this folder and drop it into the CD and hit return. Now, if I do a PWD, you're in Syracuse.com. Okay, now do a CD and go into the CSS folder. Let me go back to my slideshow. And CD, CSS, enter, and then do a Sass watch. And that's all you got to do to get Sass going. Okay, all you got to do is just turn the keys back on the ignition, start that engine up, start that watching. Okay, I wish Sass knew to like do this automatically without you having to manually turn it on. But it's also it's using computer resources right now. It's a mechanism that's running in the background, waiting, and it's technically taking up, I don't know, 1% of your RAM, trying to compile out to a finished file. If you have many different frameworks all doing things in the background, sometimes your computer can slow down, but right now we're only doing a single thing, and it should be okay. Is it working? Well, we don't really know. I mean, besides just seeing it run, there isn't really a way to test it until we actually start doing things more. Okay. So the benefits of Sass. We've done the first two benefits, variables and nesting. Let me show you what variables look like again. Variables were these little words with a little cash sign in front of them, cash sign Syracuse blue, colon, and you can store a redundant color file, a color hex value inside it. So I do all this work for Syracuse University. I was explaining that I spit out SU orange all the time. It's hashtag D44500. Some developer made it 44 in there, Doug. They put that in there. They dialed in the exact orange to get the 44 somewhere in there. Yeah, SU has this thing about the athletic number 44. Anyways, I've typed it out so many times. Now when I do a project, I don't want to type out D44500. I want to store it in a variable and then use that variable 1,000 times, because Syracuse could, for all, I don't know, hypothetically they could call me tomorrow and be like, oh, we don't have D44500 anymore. It's a brighter orange now. And if they did that to me and it was old-fashioned CSS, I'd be like, oh my God, I would have to change that in 5,000 places across all my websites. Now I potentially can change it in 1 or 2 places and have it be implemented all the way across my website. So our our Syracuse.com project, Syracuse Blue, this is the exact color, 375, 77.2. I forgot to put a semicolon after this, but semicolon at the end. And then you can use that word, Syracuse Blue, to your heart's delight. And it doesn't have to just be for a background color. It could be for color, Syracuse Blue. It could be border dash bottom, 1 pixel solid Syracuse Blue. You can put it in a gradient. There's another property in CSS to make gradients. You can throw the variable into that. You can use a variable anywhere you want to. And then variables, they don't always have to hold colors. You can hold primary font. So when I work at Syracuse University, we use a typeface called Sherman. It's a unique typeface that SU bought the license to. And I don't like to type out Sherman. I store Sherman in a variable and then use it in every single font family across my entire website. So it's there to help you speed up things. Nesting is one of my favorite things in Sass. Nesting allows me to indent code, indent like child selectors underneath a parent selector. So in this hypothetical example, if you have a showcase div or a showcase box, you can put some properties in there, and then you can start immediately talking about the children elements inside it just by tabbing it in. But when you hit compile, when you hit save, it spits it out the long way by having showcase H1, showcase image, showcase and a bunch of things. It does the hard work for you. But it's so nice to type out code like this, because when you have an opening curly brace and closing curly brace, you can really see it bound together. It helps you group your code together in a nice way. Questions about that? We'll do nesting a few more 1,000 times. But I want to get into a little bit of more Sass and spread our wings a little bit and get into partials. This is the second best thing about Sass, in my opinion. The first best thing, well, I'm ranking them actually right now. Variables is number 1. It's awesome. That's easy. It's a no-brainer. Number 2 is the nesting. Number 3 is partials. Partials allows you to keep your styles for certain components in separate files. So if you have things about the showcase div or showcase component on your website, you can store it in a separate file called _showcase.sass. You don't have to have everything in a gigantic style sheet. You can have things in little style sheets in your CSS directory. And then you can bring it all together. You can import it into your final style sheet with an import command. And I'll do this with you, but it's at import. And you just specify the name of that partial, not the whole file name of the partial. It's just, in this case, showcase. And Sass will assume that that file is called _showcase.sass. So what your main Sass file, your main style.sass file, it becomes just a list of imports. It's like a routing mechanism, and it's pulling in little pieces of your partials. And we're going to partialize the hell out of our Syracuse.com project. It allows you to really compartmentalize your code and think specifically just about the showcase or the footer or the header or the navigation. And it helps train you to do this because when you get into advanced frameworks like React, React is all built on components and little files. And you can actually bundle your little CSS files with your little JavaScript component files. You don't think of CSS anymore as one gigantic, ugly style sheet. I used to work with gigantic style sheets, and I used to call them elevators. I would have to go up and down and try to find, oh, where's my navigation styles, where's my footer stuff, oh my god, I should keep this in an exact order. Now it's all in little partials. So let's partialize our Sass setup right now. Let's partialize. If I look at my CSS that we did, we have a few pieces. We have variables upstairs. We have this mini reset that I made up to eliminate the margins that Normalize puts in that I really want Normalize to eliminate, but whatever. Then I have like base things, like just this body background color orange. That's just basic. We're going to have a lot of things about header. Think about the Best Buy header. We had a lot of different little pieces of code for that. That's going to be its own partial. Main is going to be its own partial with all sorts of juicy things. Right now it's just an H1 and H2. And footer is going to be its own partial. So let's start with, let's start by being a little bit more advanced with partials. In that, in your CSS folder, let's make a folder, a subfolder, a subfolder, if you will, called base. So I went to my CSS folder, open it up, and clicked new folder, and I'm making a base folder. This base is going to contain basic partials, base level partials like my variables or my resets. Okay, so I'm going to watch this. Watch me do this, and then you can do this with me. But I'm going to take my variables, I'm going to cut them, and go into base and add a new file to base called _variables.sass. And in this one Sass file, I'm going to just keep my variables. Granted, I only have 2 variables, but pretty soon I'll have maybe 8 to 10 variables to use. Now watch, don't do this yet. I made a separate file called variables, _variables Sass in my base folder. The only thing I left to do is tell my Sass, my main Sass file, to import it. Import what? Import base/variables. Oh, zoom out a little bit. Just like that. Base folder, because it's a subdirectory, / the name of the partial file. Not the whole _variables.sass, just the name after the underscore and before the .sass. If I hit save right now and go look at the website, it compiles everything as if everything's in one massive style sheet. Okay. All right, so now do this with me. Go in your Syracuse.com project folder, go into your CSS folder, you got to open it up, and then create a new folder. Call it base. Hit that little new folder icon and call it base. Open the base folder up. You got to click on base to open it up and create a new file. New file called _variables.sass.scss. We're going to keep our partials in nice, beautiful subdirectories. We're not going to keep all the partials in one massive CSS folder. We're going to compartmentalize. Our first little folder is called base. Does that make sense so far? I mean, we haven't done it too much.
Quick question.
Yeah.
My variables has a big U next to it.
Big U next to it.
Unwatched, isn't that what it means?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, yes. See?
yeah, it's fine right now. That's
Okay.
a GitHub thing, VS Code GitHub thing. You haven't. Okay, VS Code knows that you've committed this project before, and now you just created a new file, and it's untracked right now, unwatched. So VS Code gives you a little icon to notate new files, and we're not worrying about that right now. Cool. Okay, big deal. Okay, go back to your main Sass and grab your variables and cut them and paste them into variables.sass. Open that file up and paste in your Syracuse Blue or this primary font. And anytime you write variables in the future, they all go into this new location, because this file is going to be imported at the very top of your Sass file, and it's going to allow you to use these variables. There's going to be like a little trickle-down effect. It's going to allow you to use them anywhere you want to. So go to your main Sass, cut the variables, paste them here, save, and then go back to your Sass, your main Sass, and write your first import at the very top. Yeah. Yep. No, but on Sass language website, they use single quotes, so therefore I just used single quotes. I think technically you can use doubles. As long as either you use singles or you use doubles on both ends. Don't mix and match. Oh, you start with a single and you end it with a double. It doesn't work like that. You got to use the same on the outside. I stick with singles.
How do you do import?
Yep. Let me dual screen this. Okay, in the style.sass file on the left, at import at the very top, quotes, base subdirectory / variables. Notice you don't put underscore, you don't put .sass. Sass assumes the partial is already named like that. It has to be named underscore something .scss. And also Sass starts wherever this style.sass file is located, and that style.sass is in your CSS subdirectory, and that's where the linking starts. If I put my cursor right here, blinking, Sass is going to start here and then look for a base sub directory, if you will. Questions? Eva?
What's with the colors on yours, like that are different from mine?
Okay, I apologize. I installed a basic theme on VS Code to stylize my code, so it's branching a little bit away from the default colors that VS Code starts with. The colors in here are just, elements are blue, CSS properties are green, and CSS values are yellow, and it's the same thing almost.
Okay.
Questions? Problems? Yeah.
I got an error that says undefined variables.
Okay. Two things. Well, what's happening is you're using a variable that doesn't exist. So now I'm going to ask you, do you have the variables.sass underscore variables.scss? Have you imported it correctly? Is this variable sass saved in the right location in that base subfolder? All these little things need to work correctly so that Sass, right now Sass is like, I don't know where those variables are, and you're using them and it's freaking out. So it could be any one of those things.
Okay. So this is a deleted style.css.
Oh.
I didn't think that was.
Everything looks good.
Okay. Like I have this folder, it's in base.
Okay. Let's go back to style that says, yep. Base variables, looking nice. Go to variables. And Syracuse Blue, primary font. Looking nice. Save. Definitely hit save, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay, it's working as it's compiling. That was an old. It was an old mistake. If you hit Command K, it clears out your command line. Questions? Problems? Okay, going down the stack here. Going down the main Sass file, I want to break this up into more partials, like this H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, P, and my body background color. Those are foundational things. So I'm going to break these two things off into a file called foundation. And it's going to go into the base folder. So in the base folder, click it again. Look, I'm clicking open and go up to new file. And I'm going to make a new file called foundation.sas. And inside foundation, I'm going to steal, go back to my normal style sheet, I'm going to steal the H1 and the body, all that stuff, the H1 through P tag and body, my reset stuff, my mini reset, and put those basic foundational pieces in that space.
Did you do underscore foundation?
Underscore foundation, yep. Every partial has to be underscore something. And then I'm going to link to it. But I'm going to kick up my imports. I'm going to organize them. Look how this looks now. It's an import with base/variables, comma, base/foundation. Yeah. I did all new ones for the longest time until I saw someone do little commas. I was like, son of a bitch. I didn't even know you could do that. And look how beautiful that looks.
So much better,
Yeah.
Cool.
Let me go back to foundation. Foundation was just a little bit of a mini reset, H1 through P tag, margin 0, padding 0, and then something about body. Eventually, you might have some other things. We will have some other things in the future here. Something about a div class container and some other basic foundational stuff. But then, you know, our style sheet is becoming, 5% more organized. Your main style sheet will eventually become a routing system. It's where all these partials come together. You don't really write anything in your main SAS file anymore, your main style.sas. Questions so far? Let's take a little breather here, 2 minutes, and let's answer some questions or help a neighbor. Raise your hand if you have any questions. Kelly, yep. Oh, hold on. How did that happen? Yep.
Because right now it's still in like SAS mode. SAS doesn't have the core name thing. It's like already used. Listening to the
No, I did something, I don't know what it is.
Which control key? Okay. The problem is after base/variables, one of us have multiple repetitions. I thought it would work. But now it's like another new storage.
Yes, it should be. And then
Coming back to the main SAS, just pay attention to my import. I have one import command, and then value number 1, comma, value number 2. Let me go to foundation. Here we go, foundation. I have the mini reset and the body element declaration or style rule. In the variables, I just have Syracuse blue and primary font. And then things are coming together. These two partials are coming together at the very top.
So if we run this file in the browser, it's going to look the same.
It's going to look exactly the same. No one will ever know that I partialized it. Yeah. But you're like, oh, I'm now 10% more organized. And Now you can isolate your code and focus on just the, well, right now variables foundation, but eventually you're going to have a big, robust header file. You're going to have a navigation file. You're going to have a footer file, main content stuff, all going to be in separate partials. And it'll help you really focus. Yep.
How do you undo the dual screen thing?
Ooh, what was that? Click the dual screen icon.
Yeah, I can fix that.
What's the dot dot dot? Yeah, click that. Close all. Let's do close all. And do one more. Keep going. Keep closing everything. And keep closing. And then, yeah, I think you're good. Let me go to foundation. I cut. By the way, I cut and pasted. I didn't write this, so try to utilize cut and paste. Command C. Sorry, cut is cut is Command X, and paste Command V. Yeah. Okay, hold on.
Okay, I think it's good now because I see the two compiled greens commands down below. If you hit Command S one more time right now.
Oh, I
you're gonna
did.
see a new.
I didn't do it yet.
You're fine. You're fine. Check.
Like you
It's
say
an old
modify.
message. It's a log. If you hit Command K.
Modify and then you got untrack.
Okay.
But can you run two at the same time?
Scroll down on that little right click menu.
Like 90 seconds.
Right click and then hit clear. Yeah. Boom. Now you have a clear log. SAS is still running.
Probably, yeah.
It's just, you don't see those old messages. So Syracuse Blue wasn't working at one time because he had yet to really hook up the import. Prematurely didn't see it. So the premature freak out.
Here's a thing that happens all the time. You might run into an issue of, watch this, don't do this, but, oh, I forgot to import variables, but I have the variables file. If I hit save right now and go back to my terminal, you're going to see something like, undefined, doesn't know what Syracuse Blue is. You're going to put it back in. Watch this. I'm going to put it back in, hit save. Things are good, but you still see that message. But it's one save ago. And if things are working, you're going to see the green messages down below, but you might freak out for 1 second. I go, wait a minute. So what I often do is I come down here and hit Command K to clear, or you two-finger click down there and you hit right-click menu and you go down to clear. Okay, so it's sometimes you have a long log of all those old commits, if you will, old commands. All right, let's go. Keep going down. Hopefully we're building up a little rhythm here. Header. It will eventually become a really big file with all sorts of little header bits and children and menus, or not menus, we're going to do that in navigation, but let's take header right now and cut it. Command X for cut, and make a new file. Now I'm going to make a brand new subfolder. This isn't base level anymore. I'm going to make a new folder called regions. And inside regions, I'm going to make a new file called _header.sas. Regions/header sas. And that's where I'm going to paste in header stuff. So regions. Make a subfolder called regions and put in _header.scss and paste in your code. Last little bit is to import it, but since it's in a brand new folder, I'm going to keep it organized. I'm going to bring in another import and import region/header. Just to keep it organized. I could have continued on with my train, my import train, and have a comma, regions/header, but I want all my region imports to kind of be clustered together so I know that they're all working. All my base ones are together. And eventually we're going to have a footer SAS, we're going to have a sidebar SAS, and some more stuff in the future. So header, _header.scss only has things about our ugly header, background color black, color white padding. But we have taken the extra step to import it. And look at that import. My first import is loaded in base variables, comma, base foundation, semicolon. Terminate, end that import. It's all complete. Go down, yes, we're going to import again, regions, header. Eventually it's going to be comma, regions, sidebar, or regions, footer. We're going to add to this eventually. It becomes nice and organized.
So all my palette colors would go under variables, and all my elements are going to go under regions.
Well, all your color palettes, all your pieces are going to go in variables, yes. All your fonts, all your reusable variables are going to go in variables.
Right.
Foundation you haven't really utilized yet, so don't worry about that. It's just base level things. Headers, anything header related. It's going to be the logo stuff, the search bar, the shopping cart. I'm thinking about Best Buy, all those little bits up there. All that stuff is going to go in header. And then all your footer stuff is going to go in a footer file. So here we go. I'm gonna load this up prematurely here, but we're going to have region slash sidebar and regions slash footer. If I hit save right now, the terminal is going to freak out because I don't have those two files. It's going to be like, I can't find those region files. You need to create them. I'm just prepping. I'm going a little, like maybe 2 steps ahead. Look at your terminal. If you hit save, it's going to flash some red error messages at you, which is good. Thank you, terminal, for literally reminding me that I don't have those files yet. So let's go over to your regions folder. Here's another shortcut. Look at this. I'm opening my regions. I'm going to right click or 2-finger click right on the regions folder. And with that, I can add new files and new folders to it. Let's take that regions folder and just right click or 2-finger click and new file. And let's make underscore sidebar.sas. Right click again, 2-finger click, and make underscore footer.sas. So take that regions folder, click on it, but you can 2-finger click on it to right click, and then you can go right to new file. You don't have to go back up to those little icons above. We don't have a sidebar yet, so we're going to leave that empty. It's okay to have empty SAS files. Granted, in the future, you just don't want to have empty SAS files hanging out. You want to always make your project as light as possible. Footer, we have something about the footer, don't we? I think footer is in our main SAS. Why don't we just cut that and move it into footer SAS? And what we're left with right now is the main element. Background color black, white, padding 10, color blue, H1. We didn't really get too much into the main element. We're just kind of doing some sample stuff on Monday night. So now I was just doing this stuff to show you nesting. And this is nothing really to do with Syracuse.com. So in about 5 seconds, I'm going to delete everything about the main. And we're going to rewrite it with the right styles as we build up Syracuse.com. All right, so delete main. But my main elements, my H1, H2, gone forever. Yes, it'll come back. I'm going to do one more import, and it's going to be a folder called views, and it's going to load a partial called home. And it's going to contain things that are unique to the home page. If you remember that Syracuse.com prototype, there's a big black showcase up top and a grid of articles down below, and even an advertisement underneath that. That stuff may reside in home.
You deleted the whole.
I deleted it all, yep, gone, because it doesn't correlate to what we're doing in our project. Next week, when we get into that single article template, I might do a comma view/single and add stuff unique to that template in that import file. So now if you look at our main SAS file, this is it. It's just a routing mechanism to load in our little children pieces, our beautiful little babies, our beautiful little SAS babies. I apologize. People who have kids, you're cracking up. Caitlin's cracking up. You know.
She's a fast baby.
Look how organized your main SAS. It's not like a table of contents. That's the word. That's the phrase I'm looking for. I've been using the word routing mechanism.
So you have a new file with the view folder?
Yes. Now I hit save. I'm getting red error messages down below because I do not have a views subfolder and I don't have home partial. So why don't you go ahead and set that up?
So new file, I got kind of distracted there. The new file is home. Home?
Mm-hmm.
Or views? Home?
The new folder, views,
New
First,
folder.
a new folder
Views.
with a file called _home.sas. I don't want to answer the question for you. I want you to think, hey, we just did it 5 times. Can you do it a 6th or 7th or 8th or 9th time? All of a sudden, there's like a pattern behind it. That's good. That's cool. Karen, how's your fruit? Looks delicious. Is that a Wegmans little package? Yeah. Expensive though. It's like $5 for a package of fruit. Delicious though, but sometimes healthy food is worth it.
It's hard to find
Know who can like give us great? Know who can give us great fruit all the time? Caitlin. Okay, look at Caitlin has an endless supply of fruit over there.
I think a whole shelf in my fridge is
Awesome.
another shelf is bigger, so. Balance.
Let's take a couple minutes. Discuss with your neighbor if you have any issues, or raise your hand. I can come around and clarify a few things. Your big question might be like, why are we doing this? Answer the question, why are we doing this? For fun. Organizes it. Okay, we are avoiding having a very tall main style sheet. We want to have a table of contents that route to smaller pieces. You never want to have a tall style sheet. Take it from me. For like 10 years of my professional career, I had tall style sheets. And it'll go down the elevator and up the elevator and trying to find, oh my God, where's that style for the main H1 or the main H2? Granted, I'll try to keep it super organized, but it would still become lost. Yeah, and this is what we do mentally anyways. We actually do compartmentalize our code. But when you putting it in a jumbo style sheet, it becomes overwhelming. Questions, problems?
Do we have to delete something?
I deleted the main stuff. Everything about main H1, main H2 didn't really correlate to our project.
Oh.
Okay, it's on the sidebar. Okay. Go back to the main style sheet.
Oh, not the.
What's happening is we're right here. What's the error? What do you think?
Main stuff, this is the main.
Look at my import for regions versus your import for regions.
I think it needs to move H1.
There's one character difference. Start with region/header.
Yep, so it's H1.
It's at the very end of my line.
Oh, variable primary.
Comma keeps the import train going.
Oh,
And then I finally have a semicolon at the very end when I'm complete with that. Overall. So that's what I was.
So I need to do this.
No, you have,
Oh, because I have.
there you have multiple imports, but maybe you structure it like mine. Like my line number 1, 2, and 3, I have 1 import, 2 base. Questions back here? Cool.
for your job. Don't quit your job. Then you're stressing me. What's going on?
And then, no, I just try to comply. This is what my name has, the more writers on there. In order to save it.
We're just using that. And then you're missing a header set. This is the only thing left in my main style sheet. This is imports. All styles are now in partials. So you have something about header. There's something about header. Let's go put that into header sets. Okay, good. You got it. So let's clean up your base style sheet.
So just the imports in the main set.
Couple minutes.
It looks like saying that she does have a header in the region, but I'm saying that she makes
Somebody import underscore. Don't import the actual numbers. What you do is you import just the without the underscore, without the sense, just the name in the middle. So that automatically assumes that your files are called underscore something. So by doing what you did, it's actually like an underscore underscore. Because it's one of you have currently opened. It's just saying
it's still saying that. We're gonna sit there and track it. It's still you guys did say wait, yeah. Take the, yeah, you want, oh no.
Jada, what are you eating over there?
Deliciousness.
Making me hungry. All right, raise your hand if you have any questions.
what I like to do sometimes in my classes is everyone give me a thumbs up if you're good. Hold on, don't do it right now. Give me a sideways thumb if you need some clarification. Give me a thumbs down if you're like lost. Okay? So now, if you're good, give me a thumbs up. And that'll be the last time I ask for a thumbs up. If you ever have a problem, give me one of these or one of these. Okay? And that just means clarification or holy shit, what the hell's going on? I'm lost. TA, help, Jeff, help. Put the brakes on. Don't be afraid to do this. I do this all the time mentally. Right? In classes where I'm doing something, I'm like, I don't understand this. If I'm a student, I hijack the classroom. Okay, I am like, raise my hand, like, what the hell was that? Can you explain that? I'm the person who has no shame and be like, what was that acronym? I was just in a meeting the other day with some of my people I work with, and they're using these fancy acronyms. And I was like, what do these acronyms mean? And they're like, oh, you know, oh, it's this association of something. And so what do you think? I have no qualms, no embarrassment of not knowing how to do things. So I want you to hijack me a couple times. That's tonight?
Jeff?
Yep, okay.
Says, should our page be working right now?
Should it be working? Yeah.
What do you mean? It's not. Make sure you hit save, but if I open up, if I go to my Finder and I go to my actual project folder, where the hell is it? Careers in Code Module 2, Syracuse.com, open up the index. Ah! Oh no! Look at mine!
Tell me, what's wrong with mine?
There's an views that home. Views home.
Yeah. File to import not found or unreadable views/home doesn't exist. And it's spitting out literally the mistake.
It's telling you, Jeff, can't find views/home. I forgot to do that. So here we go. If you haven't done this already, I'm just going to go into CSS, new folder in CSS called views. Inside views, new file, underscore home.sas. And nothing goes in it. We're going to start writing stuff in that in about a couple minutes. But now when I hit refresh, things are back and roughly working. The main stuff doesn't work because I don't have anything about H1, H2, or the main element anymore. I removed it, but header's working, footer's working, and we have an ugly website. Questions? And now your main SAS file, your main style.sas, is a table of contents. A nice, organized, sexy table of contents. Sexy is not the word to describe this, but if you really like organization, you're going to like SAS. If you really like that level of organization. Remainder, any remaining questions or problems, clarifications? Dana?
So I created underscore regions.scss. It looks fine.
Wait, hold on, time out. You made underscore regions.sas?
I think we had to just delete everything.
Yes.
I made a
Main.
subdirect.
It's the folder, not the file. Okay.
Just delete main.
Did I answer the question? Or did I identify the problem?
Okay, yeah, I have the folder.
Called regions?
Regions.
Nope, delete folder.
And it
Footer,
says
yeah.
it can find my
Oh, don't
header
delete footer?
file,
Yeah.
which I'm looking right at.
That's okay.
It's in green, which I'm assuming is good.
It's in your regions folder?
Inside the regions folder.
It's safe.
Where do you have this saved?
What? It's really nice from here. Let's go to header. Delete that. Delete everything else. Save. Go back to the main style.sas.
Just add a new file. It says header. And see what it says.
Oh, okay, now what happened is, hold on. So, regions went into the base folder. So, close these files down, and save them on YouTube. Files onto, so there's a place. Yes, copy. Here's the code.
No, you didn't spell it wrong at all.
And base. But hit this third icon on the top, it says vertical finder. And with that, you can drag regions back. Drag the whole folder backwards. Or can you hit Command X?
Oh, did you make a views folder yet? No. Try
How about
doing that.
copy points?
I mean, even though, yeah, it still shouldn't say that. But try that. It's
Copy.
directly to it.
Command C. And then click here and paste. Go back to base and trash that old folder. Two-finger click and then trash.
Yeah.
I did, but that was before I saved it. That was when I used to do it without saving my folder.
They just released a lot.
hit search.
It actually looks pretty good. Look it up.
So that came out good.
Like it's very
How did you
diverse,
do
like
that?
Jay-Z.
So I just,
But then also,
I
like,
just opened up the file in
And then like all the
CSS.
Yeah.
Now you're working.
So
Now you can reopen.
I'm gonna read
Oh, but that's
I just cut and pasted it.
we are, so Anna has the header folder and the header file and the read-ins folder, but she's done pretty much everything, but it's still called it's not there.
Let's see what's going
But
on.
everything else is there.
But it's gonna be in which is like, why would you hold a big music festival on one road town? I don't know, but
I mean, the original one was like
also the same, but also like that was like 1969, so there's that.
But even then, like it was like really bad.
My dad was like he was going to go and then his job was like, we're gonna fire you if you leave, so he couldn't. Yeah, it was very sad.
It's probably better.
He had a ticket. I told him, can you find your ticket? You can probably sell it for lots of money.
That's true, like the original tickets.
And then it ended up like people didn't even have tickets because we moved the location. So they didn't have it set up to like actually take people's tickets. So it ended up being like a free for all.
Yeah. And that's
Free
why
fun.
so many people
Yeah.
went. And it's crazy, like the story behind it. There's still like still people who own that property who are still asking like the festival like to give them back money because of like their property was like damaged. Like years later.
Like Santana's gonna be at 50 though. Which is really cool.
It's really all like the big names.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
He's on
Are you
there.
talking about the food stuff? I can only imagine how much the tickets are.
I don't know, let's look it up.
Regions, the folder, had an extra space at the end of it, and regions space bar. And for whatever reason, I didn't like that. So I just bring the other file regions again without extra spaces.
That is
How would you know that otherwise?
No, so what else?
Black
There must be
keys.
something wrong with regions.
Jeff, we gotta go.
So I'm gonna rename it.
I guess then also does this actually indicate that the fees are okay?
Yeah, it didn't get that far.
Oh,
It was failing on regions/headers.
Okay.
Therefore, it was but now that.
And if you were to like separate them, not to
Now it
like,
works, yeah. I put them in entries and it should have.
Right.
Strange characters, so you can put them back. So
That was crazy. She was really
All right. Are we back? Are we good? Problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata? No. What?
Air her reading style.c and SCSS cannot open file.
Cannot open what file?
I don't know.
because you're not in your .com that CS. That's it. You can go see. And then you're gonna do CG.
Talking about that, why we couldn't have food here? Or why they we can't, but like they thought. Because it was something like the issue with the dam. Yeah, liability.
Change their grade, turn stats back up.
Yeah, and it's saying.
That would have been nice though.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Oh.
But you know what?
You know, we can,
Deleted file on CSS. Eric
we can
not on
ask for like $20 for our stipend. Seriously, that would, yeah, $20 for our stipend. And
reading sidebar.
and just, you know, as it gets closer to the end, there's something like playing around.
Oh, you did that to it,
All right, we had another mistake. Another mistake.
Even if it's a little phone.
Dakir, is that right? Dakir spelled the word regions wrong. Okay?
No, sidebar.
Sidebar wrong. Whatever. Okay? The browser or SAS compiler can't read your mind and fix the typo for yourself. But that's what I love about the fails. I love the the terminal spits out the error messages telling you there is something wrong with this line. I don't understand. Okay? One of my colleagues told me today, one of my colleagues went through another coding boot camp before this, Start Fast Code. His name is Tim Starmer. And he was like, make sure you remind students that computers are dumb. Okay, as in computers can't read your mind. They don't know. They're looking for the exact file that you are linking to. And in the future, when you get into bigger programming, you are literally supplying the computer information about how to operate or how to compile and build this website. Computers are dumb, so you got to be very careful about what you're typing. However, what I like about web development and doing this, nothing's precious. It's okay to make a typo. It's okay to make a mistake. Nothing gets deleted. Nothing gets thrown out into the stratosphere. You just, okay, I see a red mistake. What is the mistake? Okay, I don't have sidebar spelled correctly. Go fix it, hit save, boom, you're back in business. No one lost any limbs or money, or you didn't waste paper. I used to do I still do all this print design, magazine design, and I used to print so much just to see, oh, how do my fonts look? How does the color layout look? Print, print, print. Nothing like you're waiting for like a minute and a half for your print to spool into the printer and spit out. And then only to realize, oh, I spelled sidebar wrong or something. Then you got to go back and reprint it. Web design is fast. You can see your mistake, fix it, and be on your way. So enjoy the process of making mistakes. Just pay attention and listen to the terminal. It'll usually give you a clue about what's going on. All right, the last thing we're going to do in SAS tonight is this thing called mixins. Mixins. Mixins is a fancy word for functions. Okay, mixins mean, if you're familiar with a little bit of computer science, you can build a function and you can call to a function and you can have things returned from a function. It can execute things for you. In SAS world, look at this little example of a SAS mixin down here in the H1. H1, opening curly brace, at include this mixin called build font. And in parentheses, I am feeding it 3 parameters. I'm giving it Arial, 24px, and bold. What happens is it goes upstairs and finds where is build font declared, where is it initialized. And what happens is I'm passing in Arial. Arial becomes a variable called family. 24px becomes a variable called size. Bold becomes weight. It's almost like these 3 parameters are now walking through a door called build font, and as soon as they walk through the door, they're being named as a local variable. And inside here, whatever's inside these curly braces for build font, this is what gets returned back to where you called this mixin, build this function, if you will. So then font family becomes family. What happens? Font family, 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 Arial. Font size, 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 back to 24px. Font weight, weight, what is weight? Weight's up here, weight's down here. Bold. Okay, let's think about the other way. Hey, I want to do Arial. Arial becomes family. Where am I using family? Oh, I'm using it here. Font family, Arial. 24px, 24px, 24px. Bold, bold, bold. And these 3 lines get returned back to here. So when do you use a mixin, when do you not? If you ever find yourself rewriting the same clunky 3 lines or 4 lines or any number of lines over and over and over again, maybe you can group them together into a mixin, a little chunk, a little snippet, and then you can call to it and give it some values and have it return back. Now, you don't always have to return values. You can actually just have the function return something hard-coded. Let's do an example. First of all, in the base folder, let's make a new file in the base called _mixins.sas. In your base folder, _mixins.sas. This is where all your mixins are going to go to keep them organized, just like all your variables go in the variables SAS file. Mixins go into this file, and I'll write a mixin with you in 2 seconds.
You got to import it. And let's go back to your import. And import base slash mixins, comma. Squeeze it in between your variables and foundation. So what did I do? I went into my base folder, boop, 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 and I created underscore mixins.sass. We haven't coded anything about a mixin yet, but I'm just setting up the structure. And here's another little rule about partials. Just because you put a partial here doesn't mean Sass knows to import it. It's much like when you create a style sheet. And just because you save it in a folder doesn't mean the browser knows to use it. You need to give it the instruction. Computers are dumb. So you got to go to your main Sass file. Go back to your table of contents. And let's slide in mixins. I don't know, after variables, but before foundation. Before foundation, because in foundation, in the future, I might use something about building a font. Granted, I have yet to use anything about building a font. So it's kind of like have your brains come first and then start using them in different areas. The order does matter. It reads it from top to bottom. So you better make sure your variables come first and your mixins come second or something, because if you start referencing these things in these other files, Sass has to know what you're talking about ahead of time. Look how I squeezed it in. Look how I squeezed it in mixins. I put a comma after variables, and then I wrote out base slash mixins, comma, and then base slash foundation with a semicolon. So all my bases are together, all my regions are together, eventually all my views, and maybe even other components in the future. Nothing fancy yet, nothing fancy. Let's go to our mixins file and declare at mixin called build font. Here's the raw syntax of a mixin right here. You need the at mixin because it tells Sass that, hey, this thing coming right after at mixin is a, well, obviously it's a mixin, it's a function, it's something special. It's not a selector. It's not a property or value, it's something special. Sass will then look for it and compile it. Right now, let's just hard code out font family Georgia, font size 36px, color colon magenta. We're just going to be obnoxious for a second. Yeah. Optional, but yeah. I like to keep spaces, but you don't need spaces because the most important thing is the colon is in there. The colon tells the browser which one's the property, which one's the value. The thing before the colon is the property, the thing after the colon is the value. But it's prettier with spaces, in my opinion. Prettier as in more human-friendly to read.
Why did you put the parameters in?
Okay. This is going to be a place where you can name what's called the parameters, the incoming arguments. Okay, this is where you can create local variables. I'll do that when we get fancy with our mixin, but right now we're going to be very, very basic with this mixin. When you get into JavaScript and you start writing out your own functions, every function, every mixin like this needs a name, build font, or whatever you want to call it, create bananas, build bananas, but they all need parentheses and their own set of curly braces. Okay, where are we going to use this? Well, let's go to your home Sass and type out something about H1. Hey H1, no, I'm not going to do font family, font size, and color. I'm going to say at include build font. Let me make sure that's right, correct. I'm paranoid. Yeah, at include, I was right. At include. Hey Sass, when you compile, I want you to include whatever's inside the build font mixin. So Sass is going to run upstairs to the mixins file and grab the 3 lines inside it, font family, font size, and color, and put it here for you. It's going to return all of that and put those 3 lines. Hit save. If I go back to the browser and hit refresh, look what's magenta, Georgia, and 36 pixels, my H1 headline.
is it just on the CS?
I made a subfolder called views with _home.sas in it. And I also included it in the table of contents. At the very end, import views/home. It's everything unique about the home page. It's all going to go in here. Granted, my H1 with magenta is not unique, but. Questions? Yep.
Can I see home again?
Yep. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Run through a couple problem-solving things like, oh, it's not working. Do you have your mixins saved in the right folder? I put my mixins file in the base subdirectory. Do you have the mixins written out correctly? Like, let's look at the mixins. Let's look at the build font mixin function. At mixin called build font. Font family, font size, color. Curly braces on the outside.
Wait, where did the H1 that went on style, the main style?
No, that went into home.sas.
Oh, all right.
Now I'm saying, hey, H1, I want you to use the properties found inside build font. Make sure that you're importing things in the correct order. Like I have my views/home at the very bottom, but my mixins is like in second place upstairs. Now from home, I'm calling up to build font, and SAS will go look for build font. It's up here in mixins. Pull those 3 lines and put them down inside home SAS file. What was that? Eva, do those hand gestures again. Ta-da! Everyone do little. Everyone has to do that. Jazz hands, jazz fingers.
Can you go back to the home?
But I lost the orange. But
Here comes mixins. Mixins SAS. Save. Open up your browser if you don't already have it, and hit reload, refresh. Command R.
I'm sorry, what was home again? Like is that the body, where the body goes?
Yes. So far, index.html is our homepage of Syracuse.com prototype.
Do you have the magenta?
Because at some point I deleted the body part from the main style, from the old
Yep.
CSS sheet.
Yep.
And I didn't put it in.
We didn't put it back. We deleted it forever.
Because yours is still orange, mine's white now. Doesn't matter.
You can, so now what I did was I went into, no, it's okay. I went into foundation.sas and I put in, foundation SAS. I did this.
Okay.
That's where I put body, background color, silly color.
What about your home?
Let's take a couple minutes. Let's get organized. Shit's getting real. Okay, we're getting thick here. It's getting dense. Kelly, you good?
Yeah.
What was the problem?
No problem. Jennifer answered it for me. I just asked her why we were saving things with underscores, and she said it's because it's partial files.
Partial files, and SAS says if you want to utilize the whole partial system, let's denote what a partial is by having an underscore. So now when you look at it, it knows it, and then when you start importing it, SAS looks for those underscores and starts to suck them in.
Thank God.
What was the problem?
I missed the R in color.
You missed the R in color. You did colo? Okay, colo. Hashtag colo up front. Can't spell color, we can't spell sidebar in this class. Okay, that's fine. And we're doing jazz fingers. Drop the R's. Colo. YOLO.
From Boston.
I'm mad it took me so long to find that. Should have just had control F color. It would show up and then know.
How did this happen? Okay.
So, I just happened to notice I still have a tab open from Github yesterday.
Yep.
If I refresh this, will it look like it looks now?
No. Because why do you think that? Exactly. You haven't committed and you haven't pushed. So you're working locally, which is good. When we're done today, we're going to commit and push.
good. Now, you don't have an H1 in your index of HTML. In your old-fashioned index of HTML, there's nothing about an H1.
Right.
So if we're writing things about H1, like color, magenta, you want to have an H1 to work with.
In our HTML for the style sheet, we're linking to style.css. Still.
Yep, old-fashioned, we're linking to old-fashioned style.css. The browser has no idea how anything Sass is or before they link is pulling up the link on its own. Good. How are we doing? Okay, okay, you got this understanding. It's good.
Are we having build font issues? Did we build our font for H1 yet?
Karen had an issue. She was doing something with this H1, and nothing was showing up. It was fundamentally because she didn't have an H1 in her HTML document. In her main element, or just anywhere in the body, she had nothing about an H1. So just make sure you have the elements in place that you're trying to stylize.
And by the way, when I mention these examples, I'm not picking on anyone in particular.
We all make these mistakes. It's good to hear that there's other errors and typos happening. We can all laugh at it. We can all embrace it. And we can also learn from other people. Like, oh, they made that mistake. That's something I should probably avoid. What's that future? That is VS Code saying, hey, I recognize that you have a whole Git repository associated with this. It's a little branching little icon. Click on it. And it's just showing you that these are things that are changing, the recent changes. You don't have to touch that right now. When you do commit at the very end of class, you're going to see that 12 go back to 0, go back to 1.
There's 12 files that have changed. That's what it's telling you. Yeah, just magenta. All right, we're back. Now, what we just did was we called to a mixin, and we told that mixin, build font. And what did build font return? It returned font family, font size, and color automatically. And we even hard-coded Georgia, 36 pixel, and magenta. But what if you don't want that? What if you want to specify something unique? Okay, that's where you would type in the parentheses. I'm going to do Arial, comma, 60 pixels. Big voice for something large. I apologize here. Arial, 60 pixels, and silly color of lime green. You put the lime in the coconut. You put the lime. That's what I think. I also think of tequila. I don't know why. Lime green. I think of a little lime, a little. I'm getting thirsty. Okay, here we go. Arial, 60 pixel, lime green. You are now sending that mixin 3 parameters. You're saying, yeah, build me a font, return me stuff, but I'm sending you Arial, 60 pixels, and lime green. You're sending it data. Let's go back to mixins. And first thing you got to do is you got to receive those parameters. And it's often parameters become what's called arguments. They become local variables. Watch this. Here comes the family. Here comes the size. Here comes the color. This mixin doesn't know what family it is. It doesn't know what size it is. It doesn't know what color it is. But it knows it's being sent three things. Three things are coming in most of the time. So as soon as they walk through the door of this mixin, this function, they get named. Hey, Arial, you're now known as family. Hey, 60 pixel, you're now known as size. And hey, lime green, you're now renamed #color. And then you use those local variables down below to make this truly dynamic. Don't hard code the values. Use your local variables that are coming in through this front door. So family Arial gets dropped down into font family Arial. 60 pixel size gets dropped down into line 3 for size. And lime green gets renamed color and then drops down to line number 4, color : lime green. And then when it's finally done placing in those values, then it takes those 3 lines and sends them back to wherever it called, wherever the point of origin was, whoever invoked this function, whoever called to it. And that goes all the way back to the home Sass file where I said, hey, H1 build font. So you could call your mixins anything you want to. Like not build font, but you could have build bananas. I keep coming back to bananas, I apologize, but build bananas and then send stuff to it and use it and then return stuff. That's what a mixin is. That's what a function is, really. Let me test. Hold on, I didn't try yet. Save, refresh. Yeah, I'm getting it. Okay, let's go back. Let's first go back to home Sass and say, hey, H1, yes, I'm invoking build font, but I'm giving it Arial, 60 pixel, 60 px, comma, lime green. By the way, comma's in there. Yep. You're passing parameters. You're saying, hey, build font. I want you to execute, but here's Arial. Here's 60. Here's lime green. I'm sending you information. It takes Arial, 60 pixel, lime green, and drops them in to that code, and then sends it back.
So then this is just obviously shortcuts. You don't have to type it out.
Yeah. If you get sick and tired of typing out font family and font size and color, wrap it together in a mixin, and then all you got to do is type out this. Now, are you saving a lot of time by doing 3 lines? Not really, but sometimes you might have a chunk that is 5, 6, 7 lines, and this is a great way of speeding it up.
So what is being read or being passed on into the HTML file?
So hold on, home Sass? What? Home Sass?
That's what is being passed on into the H1 element in the HTML file.
Yeah. So this H1 corresponds to the index.html H1.
So it's reading the home file and not the mixin. The mixin file is communicating.
True. Hold on. So what's happening here is if I inspect this H1, let me zoom in. This H1 comes over here and sees font family Arial, font size 60, color green from style.css line 17. Style.css is the finished compiled version of this beautiful Sass document. Okay, this browser doesn't know I used Sass to build this longer style sheet, but you know that your style.sass file has a table of contents, and yeah, you were pulling in view/home, which was calling for that mixin, and that mixin existed up here. It got the information about font family, font size, color, and then brought it back down and placed it in here, and then compiled out. So the home called for something, and it said, hey, I'm executing this mixin called build font, and Sass will go upstairs to mixins.sass, execute it, build out the 3 lines, and then it returns it back here. This compiles into the 3 lines.
Anywhere that you have an H1.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, little ping pong, little pinball. It's good. You need to slow down and actually understand the path, the flow. Anna, right? Anna up here is asking me and quizzing me about now exactly what's happening. Like, okay, where's that H1? The H1's in the index.html. Is that HTML reading home sass and then the mixins and all that stuff? And the answer is no. That H1 in the HTML document is reading the compiled style.css, where it finds something about an H1. The browser doesn't know that we're using Sass to build together this long form, old-fashioned style sheet. You know, since you authored the Sass, that your main Sass file is a table of contents, and down below is views/home partial. Somewhere in there you mentioned H1, build me a font, or build font mixin. Sass, before it compiled everything, went upstairs to the mixins file, grabbed the definition of what build font is, built out font family, font size, color, returned that back down into the home Sass, and then include that into the table of contents, into this final, like, you should once in a while take a peek at your compiled style sheet. Your style sheet is right here. You can click on style.css, just don't change anything about it, but if I scroll down, this is what it compiles out to. You don't see any of the guts of what the hell happened to produce that beautiful 3 lines of H1. You just see the beautiful result. Okay, it looks like magic, because it is. Not really, but it's Sass is doing some of the hard work for you. It's confusing. There's a little bit of a pinball, ping pong thing happening in your head. It's bouncing around from a few different locations. Question? Yeah?
No question.
No question, just itching your eye. You getting teary-eyed, getting emotional about Sass over there? Yeah.
I'll say that out loud.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay.
So I found a couple mistakes in the code, but I found one that's confusing. So this is mixed ends, but I have that as mixed ends plus an S there, and then it seems like it's.
Nope, it's a singular at mixin.
Okay, so I have to.
I gotta check mine, hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. So in your mixin Sass file, in your mixins, you have a singular mixin. Sorry, that's confusing. But eventually you're going to have multiple mixins listed out in this file. We only have one right now.
Okay.
Mixins has a mixin singular.
Okay, so in the code it's mixed in, but in the file name it's mixed ends with an S.
Yes, because in about 5 or 7 minutes or something, we're going to have multiple mixins that we might use in the future. So right now it's just singular. I know it's a little confusing.
But this my font size, but the font size and the font color still won't render.
Okay, I noticed, where are you calling for this mixin? Your H1 declaration? Where is that?
I'm not H1 declaration.
Where is that?
Okay, so the H1 is in mixing.
No. Your H1 belongs in home Sass.
Okay, hold on, I think, okay, so let me delete it from here.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go to home tab. Okay, and it is in there, H1.
Okay, so delete it from your mix. You know, you had it in 2 crazy locations. Yep.
Okay, hold on.
So I just clicked on the CSS. No, it's just I just didn't go look at your
What? Sorry.
CSS.
Yeah.
And when I clicked on it, it didn't look like it.
Cool question.
Hold on.
Sass updates CSS.
Sass compiles all your little partials into a final compiled, beautiful, old-fashioned style .css. And the browser reads that file. It takes all these little pieces, brings them together into a nice single style.css, and then the browser picks that up and uses it.
Oh, okay.
Question? Yeah.
Okay, you said
Go back to the style sheet.
what is that?
The
Well, no, I was just saying, take a look at it. Take a
Yeah,
look.
so when I did, it has this working tree.
Yep.
Is that normal?
With this little note at the end? Or what? What's the working tree? I can't remember. Oh, that's something about GitHub. the word.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Just
I don't
close
know, I
it.
just clicked on it and that's what it looked like,
I think
so I didn't know.
VS Code is putting something about Git and GitHub into. This is your working branch,
Okay.
your working tree. Yeah, something like that. So ignore that. I know. I
Okay.
apologize.
No worries.
All right.
No hard feelings.
This is as sassy as we're getting tonight. I hope you can understand the basics, but you don't have to be a master of SAS just yet. Just understand that the benefits. What are we doing? We're just separating our files into nice organized partials. We just created a mixin to help us build something redundant that we get tired of typing over and over again. Our code is now becoming drier, as in we're not repeating font family, font size, color 1,000 million times ourselves. We're calling to something to build it. Whenever you find yourself doing redundant things, maybe it's time to put it into a little mixin and call to it and have it returned into that space. You're going to see me use it a few more thousand times throughout the course. Any other remaining questions? In the H1? What do you mean? In H? Where's the H1 in HTML? Hold on, time out. No, time out. The H1 is being defined, first of all, in the index.html. Second, for styling purposes, it's in home SAS. The home partial.
Just out of curiosity, could you include in the at mixins, could you just include the values that were in home instead of looking at the variables?
What was that question again?
So instead of having the variables like primary size,
Yeah.
could you just like write the Arial 60 lime green in the mixin in here? Oh.
No, because those variables in the parentheses are going to represent any instance that's going to use this mixin. Like right now I'm using it for H1, but I can easily open up an H2 and say build font and give it Verdana 24px in blue. Okay, I can use it multiple times, but whatever's coming in, whatever's feeding it, as soon as it comes in, it gets renamed family, size, and color, and then it gets used, and then it gets returned. So, great question from Anna. Like, why is there in that mixin? Why is there variables being declared in those parentheses? Okay, why didn't we just put Arial 60 pixel and lime green like right here? Well, I can now have my H2 or H3 or H4 call to build font, and I can use this one mixin 1,000,000 times throughout my document. I can give it Georgia, I can give it Roboto, I can give it 60 pixel font size or 36 pixel font size and all sorts of magical colors. But if you call from it from multiple elements, as soon as it gets invoked, those parameters get renamed as those little local variables, and they get used down below, and they all get returned back to the original, the point of origin, whoever called to build font. So for example, like I have an H2 that I have yet to do anything with in this HTML. I can come into Home SAS and say, hey H2, I want you to be slightly different. I want you to, I'm just going to copy the include from above. Yeah, I want to include build font, but I want, oh my God. Was that empty? I hope. Well, at least the cap was on. Oh. I want, what do I want? I want something contrasted, Georgia, and I want something like 48px, and I want silly color of orange. Space are optionals here, but save, refresh. Oh, orange and orange, who did that? Stupid mistake, sorry. I'm running out of colors, red. Save, refresh. Both of my H1 and my H2 are calling to the same mixin, but supplying it with different parameters, different options. Now I have two locations, two lines, line number 2, line number 5, all calling to the central mixin. It's returning 3 lines and putting into, and I just built 6 lines of code with 2 lines. And if you do the if you just imagine a little bit in the future as you scale this up, you could start building a lot more with a lot less lines of code. Yep. Final thoughts. Is this crazy? Is this ridiculous? Is this hard? It's a little hard, I admit. It's a whole different kind of structure than what you were doing briefly for the last week. That's why I'm bringing in SAS as soon as possible, because this is a good file structure, folder structure, project structure to have as you scale a project up. SAS is not an afterthought. SAS should be a parallel building thought as you completely build this from scratch. Okay, when we do responsive web design in about 2 minutes here, we want to include responsive web design as soon as possible. We want SAS included as soon as possible. It means more work up front, but you'll have complete dividends returned to you in the future. It'll make your life easier in the long run. Much like everything in programming, you gotta learn a lot of things up front, but then you start to use them down the road, and it makes your life easier, easier, and easier. I hope you can visualize the benefits, maybe not actualize or realize the benefits right now. Questions?
In the prototype,
Yeah.
there was like a H4 that was like, this font, this size,
Yeah.
whatever. And then later there was an H4 element with different.
Yeah.
But now it was like, well, I can only tell the H4 to be something one.
Okay, exactly. So that brings us into a new lesson of web design. If you want the same element, H4, to look different, you're going to introduce 2 different classes. H4 class equals button, or H4 class equals category. And then period category and period button, and then give it different properties. Okay? We'll get there. We'll get there. Dana, what are your thoughts right now? What's going on? What's your questions over there?
So the root of the problem was that I had named my style sheet something else, and now we are rebuilding the association between SAS and everything else.
Okay.
Internal.
So your link in your HTML was looking for
A different style.
a different style sheet that SAS was not outputting.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, great. Good problem to have, though. So what were you calling your style sheet, by the way?
I was calling it, was it Syracuse style?
Style Syracuse.
Style
Yeah, okay.
Syracuse.
Next time, call it style.css. Keep it simple. If you start getting fancy with your file names, you're going to forget what they are, like I do often, and then you're going to follow me in one of my presentations and copy literally what I'm typing on the screen. It's not going to correlate to your custom fancy names. Dana, stop being fancy, okay? Drop the fence. Drop the fence.
All I was doing was adding the H2. And
Yeah.
it deleted my whole, it's like it deleted from the
It deleted. What are you talking about? Nothing just randomly deletes. What? Okay, don't touch your style. You're in your style.css. You are in your compiled style.css. Don't touch that. Close that right now. I told you to open it up just to take a look at what it's compiling into, because now you're adding things to your old-fashioned style.css. And every time you hit save, hold on. Every time you hit save, SAS is like compile, and it spits out a new version, which overwrites. Okay, let me demonstrate what's happening. Karen, what you just did was you poked your head into style.css, this beautiful compiled version. Watch this. And I'm saying, hey, H1, I don't want you 60. I want you 100 pixel. Look at this. Save. Refresh. Damn it. What happened? Save. Okay, nothing changed about my SAS file. But if I come back to a SAS file and I hit save, my terminal lights up. Terminal lights up. If I go back and refresh, whoosh, it just wiped away what I just modified in my style.css. So the lesson is, do not edit anything in the compiled style.css. Don't even open it. Just be aware of it. Close it, and then focus and just edit SAS files. hit save here in a SAS file, and your terminal will light up and build a new style.css. That's where I just pulled the car over.
There's now a message saying, hey, at include build font doesn't know what that is. Undefined mixin, because you just said build font with a lowercase f instead of a capital F like me. And that's a difference, yeah. The capital F, it doesn't know what that lowercase build font is. Hit save now. And boom, we're back in business.
Okay, well, actually, we got that.
I'm going to retain all of this.
Okay, good to keep it lowercase. I'm only, if I build a mixin name or a variable name that has 2 words in it, I don't keep it lowercase because it's all lowercase. Sometimes it's very hard to read where that second word is, even though it's matched together. So that's a camel case. Keep the first lowercase and then the second letter, sorry, first letter and then second word, uppercase. So then it becomes humps, camel case. That's a computer science.
All right. Are we back? We're good? Give me a thumb sideways if you're confused, or thumbs down if, like, hit the brakes. Thumbs up? Ready to go? Okay. Look at this ugly website. This doesn't look like Syracuse.com prototype. Okay, so it's now finally time to really transition into this layout. And we're going to focus on this big black area up top, this big showcase. Okay, another day we'll do trending articles down below, and next week we'll do the single article as well. What I want you to do is when you look at this, don't get obsessed with the details. Don't start looking at fonts and little icons and the image elements. Maybe think of the elements, but start thinking of it as stuff like this, where you start visualizing where your regions are, your header region, or an article, or some little articles down below. Start thinking about the zoomed out view with the structure. You don't see structure when you look at the finished prototype. When this is finally coded and you clean up your mess and it looks completely done, almost like this, you're not going to see the div structure or the article structure underneath it. It's all going to be invisible and working together. The real education, the real fight in the battle is constructing your HTML and the CSS to produce that effect. Okay, so we're going to focus, we already have header. Okay, header is this little top bar going across. But we're going to focus on this big article, this secondary article, and some tertiary articles. We're not going to get into the details of each. Okay, we're not getting into the text and the images. We're going to just lay out the structure first. So, in HTML, I'm going to close down SAS for a couple seconds. I'm just going to close those files and just focus exclusively on the HTML document, exclusively in the main element. I'm deleting H1 and H2 and focusing just on this main content area. Main element is a wrapper that's going to go around all your main content. If you think about the main content in that prototype, it's both the black area, the black background, and your little trending articles down below. That's main content too. The article isn't, the banner ad isn't really main content. So main is going to wrap both around the black area and the white area. What you have now in HTML5 is 2 sections. You have a section element for the showcase, and you have a section element for trending. Now watch how I type this out. Don't type this. Watch. Do this. Well, first you can easily do this. Just type out the word section and hit tab. Okay, it builds it out. Here's a little something sexier now that you're finally almost ready for some sexiness. Ready? Section dot showcase tab. What was that, Caitlin? What was that? Now that you've been around the block a few times, you can appreciate shortcuts like this. First of all, do this shortcut. You know, just do section tab. Woo! That's a victory in itself. Okay. Then you can manually go back and do class equals showcase. But look at it, I'm making typos. Better yet, sometimes when you know the element, and I'm going to say building blocks, basic regions so far. I break out sections when I need to split up main content. Inside an article element, our people would have to figure out, is that div important? Is that div not important? Regardless of the class that's applied to it. But by using main, you're saying, oh, this main content is super important. But then you're now telling Google that, okay, this main content is in 2 chunks. It's in a showcase chunk, or sorry, it's in one section and another section. Google doesn't care about the name showcase or the name trending. That's for us, for our style sheet. But it does know that, okay, these 2 sections are probably main content because it's in the main element. So the nerds and geeks, they came out with these elements to help apply semantic value to your content. You're giving Google a little bit more information about what's inside these. Now, let's focus just on showcase today. This section is going to open up that black area. The black area is already kind of opened up with the header, but we're going to continue on with another black area for showcase. And we can put showcase in a few different locations. We could, I'm going to go into home.sas and talk about period showcase. H1 and H2 are just for demonstration learning things. I'm going to eventually delete them, but I'm going to keep them in there as long as possible so that we can use the H1 and H2 for something else. But it looks a little weird to have showcase down below and then a little H1, H2 up top. But really we're focusing on showcase. Hey showcase, what's so special about you? Well, you are a background color of black, but you have white text inside you. Save, refresh. Let's see what happens. Oh, I get a black showcase underneath the black header. And between those 2 boxes, you don't see the seam. You don't see the difference between header and showcase. They go right into each other. That's a good transition. You know what I'm talking about? The difference between header being background color black and then section class equals showcase being black. They're right next to each other and they go right into. So when you look at my prototype in my PDF, it looks like it's like one massive block around it, but really it's 2 different blocks around it. Inside showcase are going to be a few articles, but we're going to start with that first article, that big article. I'm going to do article, period, primary. It's going to be a primary article. I'm going to say primary article goes here. I'm putting a class on this article because I'm going to have 5 other articles in showcase. I'm going to have a secondary article and then 4 tertiary articles. 4 plus 1 is 5 plus this one is 6 total articles. I can't stylize all articles at the same exact time. Let's do primary for 1 second. Let's talk about primary. What is primary going to look like? Primary is inside showcase. So I'm going to start talking about primary directly inside the showcase. I'm going to start nesting. And for right now, hey primary, I'm going to light you up with background color purple just to see what's going on inside this. And I'm going to give you a little bit of min height so I can see what's going inside, what's happening. I'm opening this box up because I'm not going to squeeze the image in there, the lacrosse image. I'm not going to get into the headlines and the author lines and the meta information about the article just yet. I'm focusing on structure alone. Save, refresh, and look at primary opens up. Yeah. Yikes, yeah, a little bit.
Could you go back to your index?
Mm-hmm. Save. Make sure you're saving and refreshing. Yep. Now, in my PDF, you're going to notice the article, the lacrosse article, is off. Let me zoom in a little bit. It's not against the edge of the browser. And it's not against the edge of the browser. It's like inset. And it even lines up with our icons and search icons and all this stuff. But there starts to be a left edge going all the way down, even into the trending area, definitely into the footer area. And then there's an edge over here that's continuous. Okay? We're gonna put in a box. We're gonna put in a div box, and the sole purpose of this div box is to contain the information into this inside area. Watch where I put this box. Hey, Showcase, you open up, you're establishing black. Okay, you bring in that black, you're bringing in color white. Here comes div class container. And inside container goes the primary article and other articles that we get into in the future for this showcase area. Look where I opened up. Showcase opens up. It opens up the black. It opens up this big region. But container, it's going to start to pinch the content in. We haven't done the pinching yet, but we're just setting up this interior box to start pushing in the primary article and the secondary article and the tertiary articles once we get to those smaller little cubes. Okay? The sole purpose of this box called container is to contain and hold things in off the edge of your browser when it's big. You did. No, but you were right. I remember yours. You put in this little container box, which is good. By the way, look at this little note, this HTML comment. Exclamation point dash dash, that starts a comment in HTML. You can put anything you want to in the middle. I put a little slash container because it reminds me it's closing the container class. And then you need a dash dash greater than less than sign to complete the comment. Don't be afraid to leave yourself little comments about where things close, because if you have a lot of divs, these little slash divs become ambiguous really fast. You often forget, what is this actually closing? Well, if you leave yourself a little note about what it originally was closing, you remember, okay, it's closing out the div called container. Now, if I hit save and refresh, nothing happens because the browser's like, okay, Jeff, what the hell is div class container? What's so special about it? Before I declare the properties, are you with me? Are you following me? Any questions, problems? Okay, your question right now is like, what the hell is container? Yep. We're going to give it some CSS properties to pinch and push the content in off the browser edge so that things start to line up with other things down below. You're going to see this is going to be a reusable class. We're going to use div class container a few times throughout this website. And the sole purpose is just to push content in off the edge. If you hit save and refresh, it does nothing. It doesn't know what this is yet. But it will in a few seconds once we start declaring some CSS properties. If I start declaring properties about container, and I'm going to use it multiple places in my website, eventually I'm going to use it in header. Eventually it's going to be more inside this main area. It's going to be in the footer eventually. It's going to be everywhere where I need to push content in off the edge of my browser. Where's a good place to declare the properties for container? Where's a good place? If this is a utility div, if this is a utility class being used more than once in my SAS structure, where's a good place to put it? Foundation, exactly, yeah. Foundation has the basics. Body is everywhere. H1s and Ps are everywhere. Granted, this is just a little mini reset. This would be a perfect place to declare something about the container class. Not uniquely in Home Sass, but almost in a foundational Sass snippet, Sass partial that's going to be included, everywhere. Hey, container. You, for right now, on a desktop, we're not mobile right now, but we will be in a couple seconds, you're going to be width 960 pixels. And on top and bottom, you're going to be 0 pixel margin, and left and right, you're going to be auto. I'll explain that in 1 second. But this is in Foundation Sass. Period container. Hey, container div. Force yourself to be width 960 pixels. I'll explain why in a couple seconds. And take your margin of the container. 0 is top and bottom, and auto is left and right. And I'll explain what that does in 1 second. Hit save, refresh the browser, and you're going to notice your purple article, your primary article, and everything inside Showcase starts to get pinched. It starts to get contained off the edge. When you see a CSS property like this, when you see 2 values, the first value is top and bottom, margin dash. This is short. This is what's called shorthand for this. Don't type this, but look. Margin hyphen top 0. Margin hyphen right auto. Margin hyphen bottom 0. Margin hyphen left auto. Okay, typing it out 4 lines is a lot of work. Okay, when you find that your top and bottom is the same thing and your right and left is the same thing, you can get away with this. First value is top and bottom automatically. Second value is left and right. You can also just do this. You can just do 1 margin. First value is top. Second value is right, bottom, left. It's clockwise. This 0 is top, auto, right, bottom, 0, left, auto. But when you find yourself redundant like this, you can abbreviate it even further and chop it down to top, bottom, left, right. And auto means if I'm using 960 pixels, take the remainder space. If my browser is 1400 pixels wide and I want to use 960 in the middle, how much space do I have left over? 1400 minus 960, 440 pixels. It takes the remainder space, 440 pixels, divides by 2, and auto distributes half to the left and half to the right. It's like you're given a left arm and a right arm. And then that 960, the body, the container, this is my body, I'm getting centered in the browser. So when I resize the browser, it's constantly readjusting the left arm and the right arm. 960 is in the middle, but the auto means auto distributes the leftover space. Divide by 2 and give it a left, give it a right, give it a left, give it a right. It gives you the illusion that this box is being centered, but really it's not. It's auto left and right, using up the remainder space, divide by 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. And now that you saw the abbreviation, you're going to see margin 0 auto all over the place in websites. And it's, like I said, it's the abbreviation of doing margin top something, margin right, margin bottom, margin left. But first value top bottom, second value left right. Question?
So are you going to talk about the 960 too?
960 is that space, that purple space.
Did you just pick that? Like, why is that?
Okay, I picked that. You can do a 1000. You can do anything. It's an old habit of 960 pixels, but you can put in 1000. It'll still work.
Does every web page have the same
Type of container or what?
like the same width, height, size?
No, but you will start to see some redundant values, and I'm going to introduce those redundant values. What makes a desktop? What makes a tablet? What makes a mobile? There's different what's called breakpoints, and I'm going to talk about those right now, actually. Before I do that, though, I want everyone on the same page. Let's go back to HTML. Do you have a div class container? Let's make sure. And look where it's wrapping. It's wrapping around my primary article. Eventually, it's going to wrap around secondary article and tertiary articles. It's going to do some pushing. It's It's going to put all the children in the center of the black showcase. And in CSS, in Foundation, I'm putting it here because we're going to reuse container in the header. We're going to reuse container in the footer. We're going to use container in the single template article. We're going to use in the banner section, the banner ad down below. You're going to use it 1,000 times. It's going to become what's called a utility class. It's going to help you out, and you get to declare it once. Okay, we're going to segue into, we're going to pause right here on this container and article stuff and get into responsive web design just a little bit. And I'm going to just teach you what you need to know at this juncture. It's now time to start writing conditional CSS based on what size your browser is, whether you're on a mobile device, a tablet, or a desktop. Responsive web design describes how your browser, how your code responds to your browser size, your viewport size. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But to begin learning, you should just focus on how we really change from a mobile to desktop. Sometimes you can tailor things in between for tablet, but it's all about what's called the viewport. Viewport is the fancy word for your browser, your screen, your device width. Viewport. Viewport is this little window on my phone. It's your window on your laptop. It's the window on your tablet. So this term viewport, you're going to see me talk about it 1,000 times. It's the visible area of your web page. Think of it as your body element, but it's really whatever you see in your browser window. It varies. On an iPhone, you might have a viewport width of 320 pixels. On a tablet, you have a viewport width of 768 pixels. On a desktop, you can have anywhere greater than 1,000. Like my laptop right now, I think it's at 1,400 pixels wide. If I expand my browser, 100% of my desktop. Okay, we all have different sizes. This screen, if I were to install a computer into the back and project it, this might have 4,000 pixels wide or something like that. Okay. To enable the conditional styles that we're going to write, you have to set some properties about the viewport in your HTML. Basically, you got to tell the browser, hey, I'm about to do something with the viewport in the CSS document. Please start capturing some information. And what this is a meta element. It's a meta element that says name equals viewport. And it's saying, hey, browser, take the viewport. And the content about the viewport, the properties of the viewport, are going to talk about the width. And right here, hey, browser, take the width of the viewport and store it as the device width. Or sorry, yeah. The width of the viewport is set to your device width. And this is a built-in property into the browser. The browser is actually capturing your device width and storing it in its brains. You're saying take that value, put it here, and store it in a little width property. We'll come back to this in 1 second, but comma, the initial scale of the viewport is set to 1.0, and 1.0 means 100%. Ever go to a website that is not mobile friendly, and all of a sudden this big desktop website scales down to fit your little mobile device, and what you got to do is sit there and zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Okay? What happens is they didn't have this set up, initial scale 1.0. The browser, if you don't have this declared, it scales the initial scale to like 0.3 or 0.4, whatever it is to fit your tiny little device. And it's bad user experience for someone to zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and then, oh, I want to click on a button, and click it. Ever like, oh my God, am I clicking on the right link? Am I not? If you go to a mobile-friendly website, you can click on links from an arm's length away comfortably with your thumb or finger without worrying about, are you clicking the wrong button? But in this case, we're saying, hey, website, take the viewport. Or sorry, you're saying, hey, mobile device, don't scale the website to fit. Display the website full blast, 100%. Whatever's happening with the container or the body or whatever, just display it 100%. Let my conditional CSS take over. Let's write this together. Let's go into the index.html. Take a break, yeah, sorry. 7:49, let's take a break until 8 o'clock. 7:59, 8 o'clock. And by the way, we already have this written in here because when we hit exclamation point dash, tab to build this, it built out the viewport automatically. So thank you, VS Code. It enabled responsive web design. And now we can start talking about the media query to actually start toggling the conditional CSS. Take a break, though. Take a break and come back at 8 o'clock. 10 minutes. All right, so we're going to wrap up tonight with a little bit of responsive web design. I'm bringing you into this world of the viewport. The viewport is the fancy word for your device, your phone, your tablet, your laptop, but it's the screen, it's your body element. But here's where the magic happens. How does the browser know when to use certain code and when not to use certain code in your style sheet? Well, it's going to be in this what's called media query. In your style sheet, you're going to write out eventually at media. All devices are going to use this, and something needs to be true in these parentheses in order for the browser to use this set of curly braces, in order for the browser to use body background color orange. This measurement, minimum width of 700 px, is all about your viewport. Hey viewport, are you at least 700 pixels wide? True. Start using this. If I'm not 700 pixels wide, don't use any of this. Let's put this in play right now. Let's go into our foundation. You'll see this in action when you write it a few thousand times. Do this for me. So body, background color orange. This is mobile, but we're going to make a media query down here at media, all and something in parentheses needs to be true. Type that out. This is in your foundation SAS. After body, after container, at media, as in there's a special media style, media rule coming up. What type of media? Well, all devices. You can actually write CSS just for a printer, just for a projector if you really wanted to, and or a screen. Don't do this, but you could type out only printer and then write out something. Don't do this. H1s are going to be font size 22px if you were to print it out on a printer. Don't do that. Yeah, exactly. When you click print on a government website and he goes from like colors down to just grayscale, there's a print CSS kicking into gear with something like this in the code.
Sorry.
All right, this parentheses is all talking about the viewport. Hey viewport, are you at least 700 pixels wide? Can't type. Are you at least 700 pixels wide? If you are, take the body element and change the background color to something like green. Hashtag I know you're impressed. My color palette is amazing. Orange, green, blue, purple. Take this complete media query, copy it, and paste it down below one more time. At media, all devices, and minimum width 992. Jeff, what in the hell? Actually, I got this value from a professional website about a breakpoint. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but if your viewport is at least 992 pixels, that's okay. Let's just get ridiculous. Let's just do 1,000. 1,000. I'll talk about Bootstrap in the future, but Bootstrap does 992. Body background color, blue. Just going to go up the rainbow here. Save. Refresh the browser, and if I bring this back to mobile, I get orange, because that's the defaults upstairs. If I expand to tablet above 700 pixels, it turns green. If I expand it above 1,000, I get blue. That's telling me my conditional styles are working. Granted, it's just the body background color, nothing fancy. What? Yeah, you can do this with the browser. This is your new nightclub move, okay? This is like responsive web design.
No, that humping dance stuff,
Don't do the humping dance. Here it goes, here we go. You gotta go to nightclub tonight, you're gonna go, woo! Woo! Hump day, hump day. Responsive, responsive. Don't do that ever. Okay, so upstairs, up here. No, hold on, hold on. Oh, I know. Hold on. Hey, body, just be background color orange until I tell you otherwise. This is what's mobile first, even though it's just default. Just be orange. Scroll down below. However, an @media style, @media rule begins. All means all devices are going to use this: printers, projectors, and screens. And something needs to be true in these parentheses. And the parentheses talk about your viewport. Hey, viewport, are you at least minimum width 700 pixels? Let me just jump back to the meta viewport upstairs. This meta viewport, width equals device width. That's capturing whatever your viewport width is and put it into the browser's memory so that your media query, where am I? Media query foundation. In parentheses, it's talking to that width property from that meta element. Hey, viewport, are you at least 700 pixels wide? True or false? Okay, if you're on mobile, it's false, so it doesn't use green. And if this is false, well, this will also be false because the number is only getting larger. So it's only using orange from above. But as soon as you get to tablet, and tablet is between 700 and like 1,000 pixels wide, give or take, depending on the brand. Well, if you're on a tablet in that range, you're going to use green for the background. And if you're on a desktop, use something like blue. Now, it's crazy, don't do this for your website, but do this for testing to make sure your responsive styles are working. What we're going to do here is use the container as an excellent way to test. Container on a mobile device. Mobile is outside of these media queries. Hey, container, why don't you just hang out and be 100%? Just relax. Just container, there's not enough room to contain and squish content in on your small device. Why don't you just be 100% of your mobile device? No margin 0px, no nothing, no pinching. However, when we hit tablet, hey container, I'm going to need you. Container, I need you to be 95% of the space because I don't know exactly what the width is on all these different tablets. So I'm going to pinch in 95% of the available space. Actually, I'm going to pinch into 96% because I want 2% on one side and 2% on the other side, because here comes margin 0px auto. You're going to take the 96, you're just going to get off the edge, just off the tablet edge a little bit and center yourself.
Somehow I lost all of my coloring.
Hold on. One more step. When we hit the desktop size, hey container, I know you're trying to be 96%, but it's going to look massive on a desktop. I'm going to make you 1000 px, but I'm not redeclaring margin 0px auto because I'm already inheriting margin 0px auto from tablet. Watch this. Watch this. Save, refresh. Right now, my container is 100%, just doing nothing on mobile. Watch what happens when I go up to tablet. I turn green, and whoop, see that little pinching? I see a little black on the sides. Now I'm 96 in the middle, 96%, with 2% on the left, 2% on the right. If you do the math, 100% minus 96 is 4% divided by 2, 2 and 2. And then if you get up to desktop, well then just use 1,000 pixels in the middle, and then divide by 2 for the outside. Now I'm starting to center that content. Let me go back up to the top. Body background color orange, just hang out, be orange. But container, just be you, container. Be 100%. And by the way, 100% is the default value for width. I'm actually being redundant. You don't actually have to declare with 100%, but I like to because it helps me think about the different breakpoints, the different stages of this container. But in my tablet zone, my minimum width 700 pixels. Really, minimum width means, yeah, at least 700, but it's between 700 and 1,000. If I'm between 700 and 1,000 tablet, this is what's going to happen. I'm turning on a different background color just so I can see the visual difference. But then, okay, container, stop being 100%. Start centering yourself and pinching in a little bit. But desktop, okay, container, you're going to have a big desktop, you're going to have a medium desktop like your laptops. I'm going to pick a safe value. 1000 is a good safe value for right now. But notice I didn't put margin 0 px auto. You don't need to redeclare things unless you want to change things. So margin 0 px auto cascades the way up. Because on a large desktop, I still qualify for tablet. Think about it. If I'm on my desktop right now, 1400 pixels wide, both conditions are true. But since desktop comes last and it has the highest minimum width, this one cascades and wins. But it still uses tablet styles until declared otherwise. So width 96 gets cascaded with 1000. Margin 0 px auto does not get cascaded over, therefore it's still being used. And then body background colors are being cascaded as I work my way up. And that's just a developmental tool. Question? So we're doing this. We're starting mobile and we're going
so like
upwards.
If you did the margin off a bigger one, it wouldn't necessarily apply to a smaller one. Like, it doesn't go backwards.
It doesn't go backwards because
right.
If you're on a mobile, you're not minimum with 700 pixels.
You always apply that. Then if you're going to apply something that you want to go for each one, you apply it at the smallest level. And then
Yeah, and then take advantage of the cascading.
Yeah.
You know, let it trickle down into things. Question? Back here? Let me scroll back up. Let's start with 100%, container, body background color orange. This is default, but default in this context really means mobile. Even though there's no minimum width of a mobile device. Mobile is from 0 to 700 pixels. It's a giant range, but it's defaults. These will work regardless of your viewport width. But as soon as your viewport width qualifies for one of these measurements, then these properties start cascading on top of those defaults. That's why body background color turns to green and doesn't stay orange. So this is tablet, but it really means tablet and above. Minimum width 700 pixels or greater than, all the way up to large desktop. And then here comes desktop. Silly background color for body just to see a difference, but then container, you're no longer going to be a percentage because desktops get really large and I don't want to spread this website out. I want to still keep it nice and contained in the middle. And I'm just guessing, I'm just choosing 1000 pixels to start with. This is talking about your viewport. This is talking about the container. You know, two different, even though it says 1000 in both places, this is your viewport, your smartphone, your tablet. Really, it's your desktop. Your tablets are not this big. Your mobile devices are not this big for right now. So that's why when you take your browser and you expand, that's why you see purple stay still in the middle. The purple becomes 1000 pixels wide, margin 0 px auto right, auto left. Let's use container in our header. Let's go up to index.html. Find your header and wrap div class container around header stuff goes here. Put it in your footer as well. Hey, footer stuff goes here with a container wrapped around it. Watch this. Save, refresh. Look at my header stuff and my footer stuff. It stays lined up. It stays lined up because div class container is being used multiple times and it all shares the same properties. So header, look at your header in HTML. Reuse the same container class inside the header. Now, why is it going on the inside, not the outside? Well, I want the black header, the black background color to expand all the way from left to right of the entire browser. But it's the content in the middle that I want to contain. Okay, if you want background colors to go all the way on the outside, you got to put the container on the inside. If you want the color to go just on the inside, well, then you can put the container on the outside to push everything in. Same thing with the footer. If you understand this, go down to your footer and do the same thing. Footer opens up, div class container, footer stuff goes here. Close the container, close footer. And now you officially have your first utility class, your utility div, if you will. The sole purpose of this container box is to do some pushing, contain content, contain it in the middle, if you will, of your large browser and or your tablet by a little bit. Take a break here for 2 seconds.
Too many curly braces going on. What's going on? Body? Oh, okay, that closes our up. Yeah, we do have the right curly braces. It's good. Cool. See. Oh, look at it. It doesn't like variable. It's variable. Variables, all those imports, we don't need .sass. Take out .scss. All you need is the name of the partial, without the period. That's how Sass works. Sass expects everything to have a Sass extension, and you don't have to list it out yourself. And it doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work.
That's what's happening right now. It doesn't work. Like violating the way it's built to import partials. Yep. Okay, I see what it is. Open up your file here. Open up your folder there. No, not that. Go back to your little. Okay, open up your old-fashioned folder. Go to Scrapy.com. Now look at all that. All your Sass partial folders on the outside of your CSS folder. All those partial folders will be on the inside of the CSS subdirectory in order for all that stuff to work. So before you move things, close down VS Code, then move things, and then reopen. That's the main problem. That's why you can't find it, because it's that Sass file is in your CSS folder. And it's looking for children. It's looking for those base folders and the view folders. And those are on the outside of that CSS directory.
That's what I put my personal board, because I know me.
Let's look at the blue.
I'm not paying too much
container or that's not.
Oh. I want no brother.
say why don't you need it? Let's delete the spaces before the 1,000 keys and section. Look at the market color, look how beautiful that is. Good.
I know. Well, I was gonna say this reading like resolutions and things, because I did change my background.
all your fellas. Just drop out. Drop out the program. It's been fun. I'll take this. All right, so problem solving. I went through every single problem solving scenario. I figured out everything. When I got them, I'll just shut her down and turn it back on.
It just surprised me, that's all.
I lost my colors. This says that, I mean, it was here when I came back from my background colors. Now, it's still here, but it says blue. I know. It says that my,
Expected
it
some
says, yeah, that's.
parentheses.
But here's the thing, it said a deleted style.
Well, it's, yeah,
But there it is.
because there's an error in the compilation, so it's,
Oh, okay.
it's not going to output the final
All right, so
version.
it's probably in foundation, because the only thing I was doing was that.
Well, look at, actually, error, base compilation on lines 1 and 2 of foundation. Okay, what's happening is, we did container, perfect. We did body background color, perfect. Scroll up a little bit. Okay, what we did not do is close the curly brace to this entire media for you. No, that curly brace is closing the body, which you don't have that opening curly brace to the body. Therefore, it opens and closes at the same time. And then we need one more curly brace after container. So container's perfect. Before you start another media query, you need to shut the door to the first giant media query. Perfect. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Let's check our second one. Opens, perfect. Body opens, container opens. Now you're missing these queries. Well, then bring it down so it matches.
All right, stay with me for 2 minutes here. Stay with me. Let me just quickly review what we just did. Can anyone explain what we just did with container? Why did we do a container? What are the benefits of container? Controls the space it takes up. Okay, it's not doing anything on mobile because mobile is so small to begin with. It's okay to have content fill the frame. It's okay for content to fill the frame on a tablet, but we're bringing it in off the edge. You don't really need that, but we could have skipped that step. I just wanted to engage a little bit on tablet. But on desktop, we have big desktop computers, we have laptops in the middle, we have varying sizes. It's not always great to have your content stretch out. It's nice to contain a consistent, like, common denominator between them all. So that's why we're just sticking with 1,000. Next class, we're gonna have a medium desktop and a large desktop. Nowadays, you do something for like 1,000 pixels wide and 11 or 1,200 pixels wide and larger for like the big screens. Your laptops are like 1,400, so it's nice to do something like closer to that 1,400 range, like the 1,200 breakpoint. There's some terminology in responsive web design. Viewport. What's your viewport? Display size. Your viewport is your laptop. It's your smartphone screen. Think of it as your port. If you've ever been on a cruise or any kind of boat, you look out the port window. You're looking out this window to the sky, sea, lake back there. That viewport can be a big port window. It could be a small port window. This is the term viewport in terms of your mobile, tablet, and desktop device. There's a thing called media query. Media query is this a special style rule that says, hey browser, start using these styles when a condition has been met, when something is true in those parentheses. Minimum width 700, minimum width 1,000. What am I really talking to? Who minimum width 700? Who minimum width 1,000? The viewport. Okay. In parentheses, you're talking straight to the viewport. Hey viewport, are you at least minimum width 700? If true, use all this stuff. More importantly, not just use, but cascade. Start overlapping content that might be in the mobile section. Start using the styles in the tablet and cascade on top of the mobile styles. When you do responsive web design, you don't have to reset everything. If you declare font family Arial for your H1 in your mobile, you don't have to redeclare Arial for tablet, Arial for desktop. You can let it cascade all the way through. Never change your typefaces based on conditions. But font sizes might start small on mobile, go to medium on tablet, and might go to somewhat large on desktop. You might see us do that a little bit and tinker with the settings. Next class, I'm not sure about maybe tomorrow night with Christy, but you're going to get into flex. Watch me just demonstrate flex in the last 2 minutes here. You're going to do this another night, but let me give you a little quick preview. The secondary article and tertiary article, they are sharing space. If I go back to my PDF, where's my PDF? Syracuse.com. Okay, right here. The secondary article is sharing space with the tertiary articles. How do you get things side by side in CSS? Display flex, okay? So right here, I'm gonna make a new little mini parent, just like a row, and put one child and another child inside that. Don't do this, just watch, soak it up a little bit, get a little preview. Here comes div class showcase row. In tab, open. I'm going to call this close row. Inside row goes one article, and that's going to be secondary. I'm going to put a little class in here called secondary. After that, we're going to go 4 articles, but I can't just squish 4 articles off to the right. They're not going to tuck in. They're not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 automatically next to this Mondo medium-sized article. Okay, if I put in 1, 2, and I do 3, 4, 3, 4 is going to go down here and down here because it can only subdivide to the width, and once it runs out of width, it goes down to the next gigantic available, gigantic space where things can fit. So I'm going to have a little div right here called showcase-right. Yep. And then this div are 4 children. Watch this. I want 4 articles right away. I want them all called tertiary. You know how to do this. Article, element, period, class. But I want 4 of them, and I can spell correctly too. I want 4 of them. Asterisk 4. Tab. And it builds me out 4 articles. And quickly, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 into the content. Save. Refresh. Okay, now the browser doesn't know what to do with the hell with secondary and showcase right and tertiary articles until you give it some properties. So here comes, I'm going to go back to home and I'm going to talk about showcase hyphen row. Hey row, I want you to be display flex. Control your children. Make the secondary sit next to showcase row. Okay, there's also, here comes the secondary article. Hey, secondary article, you're pretty big. You're going to be 50% of the available space for right now. Showcase right, you're going to hold the 4 children off to the right, but you're going to be 50% of the available space. Let me give it a little bit of a min height so you can see this in action. 200 pixels. And a little bit of a, well, showcase right, you can have something to, you can have some minimum width, and then a little background color of orange versus yellow. Let's see that just division down there. Secondary orange. I can't see the white, but 1, 2, 3, 4 are in there, but they're not doing anything. They're just subdivided. But inside showcase right are my little tertiaries. Hey, little children. You're all going to be with 50% of your space with a little bit of a minimum height of 100px with a silly background color of blue. Save, refresh. Ah! My children are stacking on top of each other. How do I get side by side? Children? Where does display flex go in this case? Which one?
Tertiary?
Not tertiary, my little children. They're not display flex because display flex affects inside. Showcase right, even though you're being 50% minimum height, you got some children inside you that need to be display flex. Save, refresh. But then I get 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not really listening to my little tertiaries being 50% because it needs a new property that we'll get into called flex wrap. Wrap, which is a little weird. I'll give you a formal definition of this next time. But save, refresh. And now I get 1, 2. Basically it says, listen to the interior width, width 50%, And wrap content if you have to. Wrap and go down. Don't try to squeeze the children into the space. Just allow the things to wrap naturally. Okay, got a little thick right there in the last little 2 minutes. Okay, but I just want to give you a preview. But our problem right now is it's not responsive. It's going to stay like that until desktop, until we do something. So in desktop, I'm going to make everything like with 100%. And then we're going to set up some media queries to only be 50% on tablet and above, and only be set 50%, and then little 50s tablet and above. And it will work for everything. Okay, but we're not there yet. We will be. This is the underlying structure that I really wanted to get to tonight, but this is the underlying structure that you just don't see. When you look at the PDF, it's hard to visualize this. You see the end result. You see beautiful photos and beautiful typography, but you don't see primary article with 100%, nothing about display block or display flex, just regular. But then there's something special here to get the subdivision. But then if you got 1, 2, 3, 4, you gotta have one block and one block in a row with display flex inside it. And then even this little guy has display flex with little children inside it. Okay? So you get box within a box within a box within a box, and you can get really thick, but you'll get experience. Now when you roll onto this, how do you think trending articles is built? Okay, we have a container. What else? Yeah, we're going to have 6 children articles, but I don't want to apply display flex to container because it's going to affect all containers. So we're going to put an extra little box in here called trending row. And it's going to hold all 6 because I can. Okay, so we're going to have every article take up 1/3, 33%, 33%, 33%. Flex wrap, and then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 automatically, just like what it's doing up here with my little tertiaries. And so if you can do it up in the showcase, then it flows into other little areas on the website. And then when we go into the single article, okay, big primary thing, but then down below, when we hit side-by-side action, there's a row class. And then there's a main column versus a sidebar, display flex, but main is taking up 66% and sidebar is taking up 33%. Display flex. So when you look at this little diagram, you see row box with child, and this row box has flex. Not as thick though, a lot easier structure on the single, but it gets crazy, gets cray-cray on the home page, you know, especially in this little area. No tables. Okay, we're doing just articles and display flex to control the space. Tables are older, they're obsolete, and tables are only good for structuring tabular data like name, age, hometown, but in a chart, like an Excel document. Okay, so that's a little preview for either tomorrow night with Christy or next Monday with me. Tomorrow night, you're going to get another little mini design from me and Christy. You're gonna, over the weekend, you're gonna put together a little mini design. And as a little preview, it's going to be a little form to sign up for a airplane ticket or a railroad ticket or a bus ticket. Ever go to the like Amtrak or Greyhound or JetBlue.com? And it feels like it's the same form on all those. You put your, where are you going from? Where are you going to? How many passengers do you want? What's your name? You know, how many adults? But it's in like a little HTML form. I'm going to give you the style for it, what it's going to look like, and you're going to program the input fields over the weekend. Cool? Did we learn anything tonight? Just a little bit. All right. What's that? This is being streamed, yeah.
Okay, is there like a place where we can go to grab
Yeah. Yeah, the Hack Upstate YouTube channel will have all the results of the streams. It's all going to flow into there. Yep. All right, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you for staying after a few minutes.